Welcome back to the Timeless Tales podcast by Sage Chronicler, your gateway to the extraordinary. Here we unravel captivating tales of God's creation, hidden knowledge, and humanity's ultimate destiny. Each episode is a journey into the mysteries that shaped our world. And today, we're taking a deep dive into Mesopotamian mythology. Specifically the story of Marduk. You might have heard of him.
Oh, yeah.
But we're going
beyond the surface.
Beyond the surface level, yeah, exploring his evolution from a young god to a powerful ruler.
That's right. We'll be looking at Marduk's journey as a leader, drawing from a really interesting YouTube video by Sage Chronicler. It frames Marduk's story not just as mythology, but as a study in leadership.
Exactly. And what I found particularly fascinating is that it touches on these timeless dilemmas like the balance of power, the pursuit of justice, and the desire for freedom, things we still grapple with today.
Absolutely. And it all starts with Marduk's origins in the city of Babylon, where he was born to Ea, the god of wisdom. Even as a young god, the video emphasizes his strong desire to protect humanity. But what struck me is that he didn't just inherit power, he had to prove himself through trials and tribulations.
Yeah, battling those monstrous beasts terrorizing the land definitely wasn't a walk in the park.
No.
It's like a classic hero's journey, where Marduk uses his courage, cunning, and the magic passed down from his father to overcome these challenges.
This actually reminds me of other ancient myths, like the Greek myth of Heracles and his 12 labors. There's often this recurring theme of young heroes proving their worth through difficult tasks before they can ascend to greater roles.
It's like a rite of passage for leadership almost. Speaking of challenges, his greatest test comes in the form of Tiamat, a monstrous serpent representing primordial chaos. Can you elaborate on the significance of Tiamat, not just in the story, but within Mesopotamian mythology as a whole?
Tiamat represents this primal force of chaos, the untamed primordial state before the creation of the world. Her battle with Marduk is what's known as a chaos camp, a struggle between order and chaos, a motif found across many cultures. This isn't just about defeating a monster, it's about establishing order from chaos, about the very foundation of civilization.
Right, and after a truly epic battle, Marduk emerges victorious, using Tiamat's defeated body to create the world as we know it. Naturally, he's crowned king of Babylon, becoming the protector of humanity.
But as you can imagine, leading a newly formed world comes with its own set of challenges. The video highlights Marduk's internal struggles with leadership. On one hand, he sees the need for control and structure. On the other, he also sees the value in empowering people to shape their own destiny.
I think that's something every leader grapples with, right?
Yeah.
That balance between providing direction and fostering freedom. It's like a tightrope walk, always trying to find that sweet spot.
Exactly. And it's fascinating to see how Marduk tries to navigate this. Rather than ruling from a detached position of power, he disguises himself as a commoner to truly understand his people's needs, their dreams, their fears. He's essentially trying to develop empathy before it was even a word.
That's pretty remarkable for a god, don't you think?
Yeah.
Most just sit on their thrones and issue commands. But Marduk gets down in the trenches, so to speak. It shows a level of humility and a genuine desire to connect with the people he's ruling.
It does, and this experience shapes his vision. He returns to his throne wanting to empower people, to give them the tools to build their own futures. But this, of course, isn't always met with open arms. We see figures like Enlil, the god of air, and storms, who represents a more traditional hierarchical view of divine rule.
That's so interesting. It's like Marduk is challenging the established order, trying to move away from this top-down approach to leadership.
Exactly. And this push for a more egalitarian approach, if you will, is bound to create friction.
Oh, yeah.
Some embrace this new vision, while others, like Enlil, see it as a threat, a disruption to the divine order.
This makes me think about how even the most well-intentioned leaders face resistance when they try to implement change, especially change that disrupts traditional power structures. But what I find particularly intriguing is how Marduk handles this opposition. Instead of lashing out or resorting to force, he tries to understand their concerns.
It's an important quality of a leader. Being able to listen and consider differing viewpoints, especially those that challenge your own, is crucial in navigating complex situations. And remember, this is all happening while Marduk is dealing with the remnants of chaos from his battle with Tiamat.
Oh, right. I almost forgot about that looming threat.
It manifests in the form of Nergal, a powerful sorcerer corrupted by Tiamat's chaotic energy, who seeks to undo the order that Marduk has so painstakingly established.
Nergal embodies the darkness that lingers even after order is established, doesn't he? It's like a constant reminder that chaos can reemerge at any moment.
Precisely. And this really tests Marduk's leadership. Does he stick to his vision of empowering people, or does he revert to a more authoritarian style of rule in the face of this threat? It's a fascinating dilemma. So last time we left off with Marduk facing this new challenge, the emergence of Nergal, a figure who really embodies that sort of lingering threat of chaos.
Yeah, Nurgle is a real curveball. He seems to represent this idea that even after order is established, there's always a potential for chaos to resurface. It's like a constant tension that any leader has to grapple with.
Right. Absolutely. This part of the video really emphasizes that leadership isn't just about establishing order, it's about maintaining it, adapting to ever-changing circumstances. And for Marduk, this is where things get really interesting. He's poured his heart into empowering the people of Babylon, but now this terrifying new threat emerges, and it makes you wonder, does he compromise his ideals to protect his people?
It's a tough spot, and the video doesn't shy away from showing Marduk's internal struggle. He doubts himself, questions his choices, and ultimately turns to his father Ea for guidance.
This moment really stood out to me. Marduk, the mighty god who vanquished Tiamat, now seeks advice from his father. It shows that even the most powerful leaders need guidance and support, especially in moments of uncertainty. And E's advice is crucial. He reminds Marduk that leadership requires balance, not just control or freedom, but a nuanced blend of both.
Okay, so this idea of balance, can you unpack that a bit more? What does that actually look like in practice, especially in the context of leadership?
It's about understanding that there are times when clear direction and structure are needed, and times when it's crucial to step back and allow for individual agency and creativity. Marduk initially leaned heavily towards empowerment, but now we have to reconcile that with the need for security and protection.
It's like walking a tightrope, constantly adjusting to maintain balance. And it makes me think about modern leadership as well. How do leaders today navigate this same tension between, say, individual liberties and national security or innovation and regulation? It seems like a universal struggle.
Absolutely. This tension is woven into the very fabric of leadership, regardless of time or context. And what's fascinating is that Marduk, armed with this new perspective, doesn't abandon his ideals. He confronts Nergal head-on, but not just with brute force. He approaches this challenge with a newfound wisdom and strategic thinking.
This really highlights the importance of adaptability, right?
Yeah.
As a leader, you can't just stick to a rigid plan. You have to be able to adjust your approach as new challenges arise.
Precisely. Marduk's earlier experiences walking among the people in disguise weren't just about empathy. They were about gathering information, understanding the nuances of his society, and this knowledge proves crucial as he devises a strategy to counter Nergal's chaos.
So it's like those early experiences, those moments that might have seemed insignificant at the time, actually prepared him for this very moment. It's a great reminder that everything we experience, even the challenges, can shape us into better leaders.
Exactly. And what's really powerful is that even in the face of this terrifying threat, Marduk doesn't compromise his core values. He could have easily resorted to tyrannical measures, justifying them as necessary for security, but he doesn't. He fights to protect the society. He's built a society where justice and individual empowerment are paramount.
So he finds a way to stay true to himself while also rising to the challenge. That takes a lot of strength, I imagine.
It does, and this resonates with the concept of resilience. True leaders aren't just those who avoid setbacks. They're those who learn from them, who adapt, and who emerge stronger on the other side. And this brings us to a critical turning point in Marduk's journey, the establishment of what the video calls the Code of Marduk.
That sounds intriguing. We've talked about ancient law codes before on the show, like Hammurabi's code, but what makes Marduk's code unique? What sets it apart?
Well, while it shares some similarities with other law codes emphasizing fairness and justice, what's really interesting is the emphasis on knowledge and wisdom as the foundation for a strong and lasting society.
Oh, that's a really interesting angle. So it's not just about punishment or retribution. It's about fostering a culture of learning and critical thinking.
Exactly. Marduk seems to understand that true security, true peace, comes from an educated populace, a society that can reason and make informed decisions. He sees knowledge and wisdom as the ultimate weapons against the forces of chaos.
You know, that's incredibly relevant to today's world where we're constantly bombarded with information. Being able to critically analyze information to discern truth from falsehood has never been more important. It's like Marduk is saying, don't just blindly follow, question, learn, and use your knowledge to build a better future.
That's a great way to put it. And it goes beyond individual enlightenment. He's talking about a collective responsibility, a society that values knowledge and critical thinking as the bedrock for progress and a bulwark against the inevitable cycles of order and chaos.
And in a way, isn't that what we're trying to do here on the Timeless Tales podcast?
hmm
Encourage our listeners to engage with these ancient stories, to question, to learn, and to apply these timeless lessons to their own lives.
Absolutely. By exploring these myths, we're not just revisiting the past, we're engaging with universal truths about leadership resilience and the human condition.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, where do we find Marduk? What becomes of this leader who faced such immense challenges and championed knowledge and wisdom so fiercely?
Well, after establishing the Code of Marduk, he gathers the leaders of Babylon and delivers what the video describes as his final address.
A final address. It sounds pretty weighty. What does he say?
He tells them that he doesn't want to be remembered as a conqueror, but as a compassionate and just leader. He emphasizes that true strength lies not in military might, but in the unity, justice, and spirit of the people. He's essentially entrusting the future of Babylon to its people, urging them to embrace the values he's worked so hard to instill.
That's a powerful message, and it raises some really interesting questions about legacy. What does it truly mean to be a successful leader? Is it about individual glory or the lasting impact you have on your people and the world?
Exactly. Marduk's story challenges us to think about the kind of legacy we want to leave behind. Is it one of power and dominance, or one of compassion, wisdom, and empowerment? And that brings us to the heart of this deep dive. How can we in our own lives embody those same qualities that Marduk championed?
So it sounds like Marduk is really setting a high bar for leadership.
He is.
What are some of the biggest lessons that we can take away from his story?
Yeah.
I mean, for us regular folks just trying to navigate our own lives.
I think one of the most important takeaways is this idea of empathy.
Okay.
Really trying to understand and connect with people who are different from us.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's not just about feeling sorry for someone. It's about actively listening to their perspectives, their experiences, their needs, and then using that understanding to inform our actions and decisions.
So it's like putting yourself in someone else's shoes and seeing the world through their eyes.
Exactly.
Now, that's something we can all work on, right? Like, it doesn't matter if you're the CEO of a company or, just a parent trying to understand your kid.
Yeah. Right. It applies to all of us.
Empathy is a powerful tool for building stronger relationships and creating a more compassionate world.
I completely agree. And another key lesson from Marduk's story is the importance of balance, especially when it comes to leadership.
Yeah, we talked about that.
We did.
Yeah.
You know, that balance between control and freedom.
Right.
It's about recognizing that there are times when we need structure and guidance, and times when we need to step back and allow for creativity and autonomy.
It's finding that sweet spot, right?
Exactly. And it's not always easy, but it's crucial for fostering growth and innovation.
Yeah, and it's not just about leadership in like a formal sense either. This applies to so many areas of our lives, right?
Totally. Think about parenting, for example.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, you want to set boundaries and provide structure for your kids,
Right.
but you also want to give them the space to explore and make their own choices.
Makes sense. So how does Marduk's story help us with that? Like, how can we actually apply these kind of lofty ideas about leadership and balance to our everyday lives?
Well, one way is to start by examining our own values and beliefs.
Okay.
What do we stand for? What kind of impact do we want to have on the world? Once we have a clear sense of that, it becomes easier to make decisions that align with those values.
So it's like having a compass to guide our actions.
Exactly. And then it's about being mindful of the way we interact with others.
How so?
Are we listening with empathy? Are we creating space for different perspectives? Are we empowering others to contribute their talents and ideas?
Those are really great points. And I think it all comes back to this idea of legacy that we were talking about earlier. It's not just about what we achieve in our own lifetimes, but the impact we leave on the world and the people around us.
Exactly. And I think Marduk's story offers a powerful reminder that true legacy isn't about power or dominance. It's about compassion, wisdom, and the courage to empower others.
Well said. Thanks for taking us on this deep dive into the world of Mesopotamian mythology and leadership. I think we've all learned a lot from Marduk's journey.
It's been my pleasure.
And for our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring these ancient tales. They're filled with timeless wisdom that can guide us in our own lives and help us create a better future for all. Thanks for joining us on the Timeless Tales podcast.